Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IAS. We are covering the previous year questions of UPSC preliminary examination, and today we are going to cover Indian economy in this series of discussion. So let us quickly move to see the topics that we are going to cover for the day. Okay, so we are going to understand the WTO agreements, then we will look into the monetary policy, then we will understand about economic reforms, we will understand about banking sector reforms, we will understand about cyber insurance for individuals in India. Okay, so these topics are covered in prelims examination under this particular heading, which says economic and social development, sustainable development, poverty, inclusion, demographics, social sector initiatives, etc. Okay, so let us take the first question for the day. Let us read this question. This question says, with reference to trade related investment measures, which of the following statements is or are correct? There are three statements. We will read each of these statements one by one. So let us read the first statement. It says, quantitative restrictions on imports by foreign investors are prohibited. Statement 2, they apply to investment measures related to trade in goods and services. Statement 3, they are not concerned with the regulation of foreign investment. Okay, so we need to understand that like this question revolves around the trade related investment measures of World Trade Organization. Okay, so this particular trade related investment measures of World Trade Organization was signed, okay, under the Uruguay round. It was signed under the Uruguay, okay, Uruguay round of discussions that was held from 1986 to 1994. Okay, it was held from 1986 to 1994. So what are trade related investment measures? Okay, basically we need to discuss that under the World Trade Organization there are two basic agreements. One of the basic agreement is trade related investment measures, that is that discusses about goods only. Okay, it discusses about goods only. And there is another one that is known as general agreement in on trade in services. Okay, so the thing is that discusses about trade in services. So this particular agreement, which is trade related investment measures, it is with reference to goods. Okay, so if we read the second statement, it says they apply to investment measures related to trade in both goods and services. Okay, so this particular agreement does not relate to the trade in services. So that's why statement 2 is incorrect. If statement 2 is incorrect, we can eliminate some of the options. We can eliminate option A that has 2 as a statement. We can eliminate option B that has 2 as a statement. We can eliminate option D that has 2 as a statement. So we have already arrived the answer, which is C. Okay, but apart from this, we also need to understand about that, like what is this trade related investment measures. Okay, so the thing is, as you know, like under WTO, World Trade Organization is an international body. Okay, under this particular body is mandated to regulate the free flow of trade in the world. Okay, in the world. So the thing is, it actually puts some guidelines to member countries of WTO to make the flow of trade between the member countries easier. Okay, so the thing is, like this particular agreement, okay, under this particular trade related investment measures agreement, the members will not apply, the members are mandated that they will not apply certain investment measures that discriminate against foreign goods and that restricts or distorts or leads to quantitative restrictions. Okay, so the thing is, it is mandated to the members of the WTO that they will not adopt those policy measures that has the potential of restricting the flow of trade, or that can put quantitative restrictions. Okay, so there is prohibition under this particular trade related investment measures. There is prohibition on imports. Okay, like on quantitative restrictions on imports. Okay, so that's why this statement is correct. Let's consider this is an economy. Okay, India is a country, this is an economy. So like there are various foreign direct investors, there are many foreign direct investors, there are other investors also. They invest their money in India. So if they are importing some goods in India, so India cannot put, okay, India cannot put quantitative restrictions. It cannot say like you can only import, 100 units of this particular good, not beyond that, because like that will be a prohibitive or restrictive measures, and that restrictive measure is not allowed under the trade related investment measures. Okay, so that's why quantitative restrictions on imports by foreign investors are prohibited. Means like India cannot put quantitative restrictions on foreign investors. Like let's consider there is an individual. Okay, this particular individual is a foreign investor. Okay, so he is willing to invest in India. Okay, so quantitative restrictions will not be placed by India in that case. Okay, so that's why statement 1 is correct. Okay, let us also read the third statement. It says they are not concerned with the regulation of foreign investment. Okay, so this particular thing, trade related investment measures do not put regulations, okay, on foreign investment. Means like for regulation of foreign investment, each member country puts certain criteria for itself. Okay, so like it is decided by members, but like this particular trade related investment measures as such, trims as such, do not, is not concerned with the regulation of foreign investment. So that's why option C is correct for this particular question. Okay, so this question was in set A of UPSC CAC 2020. Okay, answer is C. Now let us take the next question for the day. Let us read this question now. Okay, this question reads, if the RBI decides to adopt expansionist monetary policy, okay, monetary policy, which of the following would it not do? Okay, we need to understand two things in detail, that like, RBI is adopting expansionist monetary policy. What RBI is doing? RBI is adopting, okay, expansionist monetary policy. This is important. Okay, and what RBI should not do in that case if RBI is adopting that particular policy, expansionist monetary policy. So before we go and read these statements and answer this question, we need to understand what is expansionist monetary policy. Okay, so expansionist monetary policy of the RBI. Okay, when we talk about expansionist, okay, expansionist monetary policy of RBI, monetary policy of RBI. Okay, so when we talk about expansionist monetary policy, so in this case, okay, in the expansionist monetary policy, what RBI will not be doing, okay, what RBI will be doing, we need to understand first what RBI will be doing and what RBI will not be doing, and what is expansionist monetary policy. Okay, because the core idea of this particular question is expansionist monetary policy. Okay, so the thing is, when RBI adopts expansionist monetary policy, what it does, it adopts a easy monetary policy. Okay, means like it adopts a kind of monetary policy that is, that makes the flow of money in the economy easier. Okay, and why RBI does it? RBI does it to stimulate the economy. Okay, RBI does it to stimulate, okay, the economy. RBI does it to stimulate the economy. And apart from this, what it does, it increases the money supply in the economy. Okay, it increases the money supply in the economy. It increases the money supply, okay, in the economy. Okay, and it also increases demand in the economy. It increases demand for goods and services in the economy, or it increases demand in the economy. This is another thing. Then it boosts economic growth. What it does, it boosts, okay, economic growth. It boosts economic growth. So this is, this is about expansionist monetary policy. When RBI is adopting expansionist monetary policy, it will adopt easy monetary policy to stimulate the economy, which increases the money supply in the economy, it increases the demand in the economy, and it boosts the economic growth. So considering the nature of the expansionist monetary policy, we need to understand that, like, when these are the objectives for RBI, what RBI will do, RBI will reduce all the interest rate that RBI charges from banks, okay, when it lends some money to the banks, okay. So what RBI will do, RBI is going to, RBI is going to reduce, okay, decrease the statute, it is going to decrease, okay, the SLR. I'm going to discuss what is SLR. SLR is not an interest rate that the RBI charges. I'm going to discuss about it. But RBI decreases the SLR. At the same time, RBI will decrease the marginal standing facility. It will also decrease the, okay, repo rate. It will decrease the repo rate. Okay. It will also decrease the bank rate. Okay, so when RBI will adopt expansionist monetary policy, it wants that the economy should flourish. The activity in the economy should increase. When activity in the economy should increase, then people should have money in their hands. Okay, banks should be able to lend money to people at a easier way. Okay, for this, what RBI will do? RBI is going to reduce all the interest rate that it charges from the banks. Okay, so RBI will decrease the marginal standing facility. It will decrease the repo rate. It will decrease the bank rate. Okay, so this is the thing. Now let us go through the statements. Okay, uh, let us also understand what is SLR. SLR means statutory liquidity ratio. Okay, SLR. Okay, SLR is the minimum percentage of deposits that a commercial bank has to maintain in the form of cash, gold, or other securities with itself. Okay, so the thing is, different banks are mandated by the RBI that you should, keep, some money in the liquid form with you. Okay, the money can be in any form, like it can be in the form of gold, it can be in the form of cash, and it can be in the form of other securities. Why RBI mandates the banks to do so? Because so like if tomorrow a customer of a bank comes and he wants to withdraw some money from his bank account, so bank should be having enough money with itself so that like it can give give to that particular customer who has come to withdraw their money. Okay, that's the thing. So that's why SLR is important. Okay, so SLR is a reserve requirement. Okay, that the banks are expected to keep before offering credit to customers. Means like banks should keep some money with themselves in liquid format, okay, in the form of cash, gold, or other securities before it gives away loan to customers. So this is a reserve requirement for the bank. And so that's the thing. So let us now read these statements one by one. The first statement says, like uh, let us understand, like if RBI adopts expansionist monetary policy, what it is going to do. Okay, we are going to so it will cut and optimize the statutory liquidity ratio. Okay, according to the expansionist monetary policy, what RBI is going to do, it is going to cut and optimize the statutory liquidity ratio. Then it is going to cut the bank rate and repo rate, as we have discussed. So RBI will not increase the marginal standing facility. RBI is not going to increase the marginal standing facility. In the question, they are asking what the RBI will not do. So RBI will not do the second statement, that like RBI will not increase the marginal standing facility. So correct answer for this question is option B. Okay. So having understood this, let us also understand what is MSF. MSF means marginal standing facility. What is MSF? MSF is a window for the scheduled commercial banks to borrow overnight from the Reserve Bank of India. Okay, means like banks can borrow overnight on a shorter term from the Reserve Bank of India. It is a special window. Marginal standing facility is a special window under which the banks can borrow from RBI on a shorter term. Okay. In an emerging situation when the interbank liquidity dries up completely, it simply means, let's consider there is bank A. Okay, so I'm just drawing some figures over here. Okay, let's consider there is bank A. Okay, there is bank B, and there is RBI. Okay, on top of all these banks. Okay, let's consider bank A does not have enough money to give to its customers. So in that case, one of the option for the bank A is to ask for money from bank B. It can lend some money from bank B. It can borrow some money from bank B. But like bank B, if it does not have money with itself, so what it will do, it will not be able to give money to bank A. So in that case, bank A has an option to approach RBI to ask for short term liquidity, means to ask for short term money. So under this MSF arrangement, marginal standing facility arrangement, RBI, gives some, like lends some money to scheduled commercial banks on a shorter time period. So that is known as MSF, marginal standing facility. Okay. So, if the economy has to perform at its level best, then MSF should be, reduced by RBI. So that's the thing. Now let us understand what is repo rate. Okay, repo rate is the interest rate at which the RBI lends money to the banks. Okay, repo rate is the interest rate at which RBI lends money to the commercial banks against the collateral of the government and other approved securities under the liquidity adjustment facility. Okay, so like repo rate happens under liquidity adjustment facility. MSF, marginal standing facility, means a bank can directly borrow money from RBI, but repo rate, is the interest rate, okay, that RBI charges from banks, okay, when RBI lends money, okay, lends short-term money to the to its customer, to the banks. Okay, that's the thing. Now, what is bank rate? Bank rate is the interest rate that the RBI charges on long term, okay, on its long term lending to the banks. When RBI is lending money, when RBI is giving money to banks, right, on an interest rate for a long term basis, that is known as bank rate. Okay, so these are the things. Correct answer for this question is B. Okay, it was also there in set A. It was question number 57 in set A of UPSC CSE 2020. Now let us take the next question for the day. Okay, this question is about with reference to the Indian economy after 1991 economic liberalization. Okay, this question says that with reference to Indian economy after 1991 economic liberalization, consider the following statements. Okay, the statements are: worker productivity increased in urban areas while it decreased in rural areas. Okay, statement 2, the percentage share of rural areas in workforce steadily increased. Statement 3, in rural areas the growth in non-farm economy increased. Statement 4, the growth rate in rural employment decreased. Okay, so they are asking which of these statements that are given above are correct. Okay, so for this, like this question is little difficult for those people who did not read a particular topic. The topic is a Niti Aayog report of 2017. Okay, so this question came from a Niti Aayog report. Okay, Niti Aayog report of 2017. Okay, under that Niti Aayog report, what has happened? The Niti Aayog, what was the name of the report? I'm going to write the name of the report. It is changing structure. Name of the report is changing structure, okay, of rural economy. Changing structure of rural economy of India. Okay, implications for employment and growth. Okay, implications for employment and growth. Okay, so this is the name of the report that the Niti Aayog has published in 2017. It says changing structure of rural economy of India, implications for employment and growth. Okay, so like economy related things are also found in NCERT book of 11th standard, and at the same time if you are reading economic survey regularly, then you'll come across such information. So this question is totally based on information. Like if you are aware of economic reforms, LPG reforms of 1991, and if you take take keen interest how economy is changing since then you'll be able to answer this question. Okay, this question is little difficult, I would say, but the thing is, like if we go to understand the findings of this particular report, if we go to understand the findings, okay, findings of this particular report, then we will be able to answer this question. The first finding, it says worker productivity has increased both in rural and urban areas. Okay, so it says that worker productivity has increased both in rural and urban areas, but in the question it says that worker productivity has increased in urban areas while it decreased in the rural areas. Okay, in the question it says worker productivity has increased in urban areas while it decreased in the rural area. So it did not decrease in the rural area, it increased in the rural area. Okay, so that's why statement 1 is incorrect. If statement 1 is incorrect, we can eliminate some of the options. We can eliminate option A, this one. We can eliminate option D, this one. We are left with, B and C, option B and C. It means third statement is correct. So like, let us understand, let us now go through and understand, third statement. Third statement says that in rural areas, the growth in non-farm economy increased. Yes, it happened. And other finding of the report is that like the rural share in the total workforce declined steadily from 76.1% in 1999 to 2000 to 70.9% in 2011-12. Okay, so this particular thing, that's why in the second statement it says the percentage share of rural areas in workforce steadily decreased. Okay, so the thing is, this is the thing. Okay, so that's why. Now let us read the fourth statement. It says the growth rate in rural employment decreased. Okay, so the thing is, in the rural employment the growth rate has decreased. Okay, so how it has decreased, we are going to talk about it. Okay, we are going to write down growth rate, okay, in rural economy, in rural economy. So what has happened with the growth rate in rural economy? With the growth rate, like if we talk about, two periods, we are going to talk about, two periods. One is pre-reform period. Okay, pre-reform, like before 1991, what has happened? The growth rate in rural economy was 2.16%. If we talk about post-reform period, okay, post-reform, the growth rate was 1.45%. If we talk about, okay, after post requirement, like when the economy was accelerating, the growth rate has become negative. It was, minus 0.28%. So that's the thing. So correct answer for this question is option B, option B. Okay, option B is the right answer for this question. So I'm marking option B as a right answer. Okay, so this was also question number 58 in set A of 2020. Okay, correct answer is B for this question. Now let us talk about the next question for the day. Okay, let us take fourth question. This question says, consider the following statements. Okay, in terms of short-term credit delivery to the agriculture sector, the district central cooperative banks, DCCBs, deliver more credit in comparison to scheduled commercial banks and regional rural banks. Okay, second statement, it says one of the most important functions of district central cooperative banks is to provide funds to the primary agricultural credit societies. Okay, which of the statements given above is or are correct? They are asking which of these statements are correct. So this question is from banking sector. From where this question came? It came from banking sector. Okay, in the banking sector itself, like this question was part of the rural credit. Like when we talk about credit that is extended to by the banking sector to the rural society, that is known as rural credit. Okay, so when we talk about rural credit, there are different banks that extend rural credit. One of the type of bank is known as cooperative bank. Okay, one of the bank is known as cooperative bank. Then second type of bank is known as scheduled commercial banks. Scheduled commercial banks. Then the third type of bank is known as regional rural bank. Okay, regional rural banks. So these are the banks that extend credit to rural sector or agricultural sector. Now the first statement talks about like like which of these banks extend more credit to the rural or agricultural sector. Okay, so there has been report. Okay, in that report it was mentioned that scheduled commercial banks actually extend, maximum credit. They extend around 78 to 80%. Okay, 78 to 80% of the rural credit is extended by scheduled commercial banks. And if we talk about share of cooperative banks put together, the share of cooperative banks was 15 to 16% only. Okay, if we talk about regional rural banks, their share in rural or agricultural sector was 5% only. Okay, what it simply means that like scheduled commercial banks were the ones that has lent maximum money, okay, to the agricultural sector. So the first statement says, okay, if we read the first statement, okay, if we read the first statement says like, that district central cooperative banks has delivered more credit in comparison to, scheduled commercial banks and regional rural banks. This is not correct. Okay, this is not correct. And if we talk about, second statement says one of the most important functions of district central cooperative bank is to provide, funds to the primary agricultural credit societies. So that's why correct answer for this question is option B. Okay, option B is correct answer. But apart from this, we are also going to understand what are different types of cooperative banks. Okay, when we talk about cooperative banks, okay, so let me take you to the next page. Then we are going to discuss about cooperative banks. Okay, so let us discuss like what are different types of cooperative banks. Cooperative banks. Okay, there are three types of cooperative banks basically. They are known as tier 1, then we have tier 2, then we have tier 3. Okay, there are three types of cooperative banks. One of the cooperative bank is known as tier 1, second cooperative bank is known as tier 2, third cooperative bank is known as tier 3. When we talk about tier 1 cooperative banks, these are also known as state cooperative banks at a state level. Okay, they are state cooperative banks. Okay, at a state level, they work at a state level. And the second tier cooperative banks include central cooperative banks. Okay, and they work at district level. We have central cooperative banks, they work at the district level. So that's why they are known as district central cooperative banks. Okay, which is mentioned in the question itself. Okay, it is mentioned district central cooperative bank in the question. One of the thing is it is mentioned district central cooperative banks. Okay, so this is tier 2. District central cooperative bank is tier 2 cooperative bank. Okay, then at tier 3 we have primary agricultural credit societies. Okay, we have in tier 3 we have primary agricultural credit societies, PACS. Okay, primary agricultural credit societies, PACSs. Okay, like that. So these are different types of cooperative bank. The correct answer for this question is option B. Now, having understood this, let us move to the next question for the day. This question revolves around the insurance sector. Okay, insurance sector. So it says like in India, under cyber insurance for individuals, which of the following benefits are generally covered in the addition to payment for loss of funds and other benefits? Okay, means they are saying like if you are taking a cyber insurance for your computer, okay, like if an individual opts for a cyber insurance policy, so what are the things that will be covered under that insurance policy? Okay, so we need to read all these statements to identify which one may be covered, which one may not be covered. Okay, statement 1 says cost of restoration of the computer system in case of a malware disrupting access to one's computer. Yes, like if you have opted for a cyber insurance, okay, it means like the insurance provider will be giving you some kind of antivirus, okay, or so that like malware can be stopped. So if malware has disrupted your access to your computer, so in that case it will be covered under the cyber insurance policy. That is correct. Okay, let us read the second statement. Cost of new computer if some miscreant willfully damages it if proved so. Okay, means you have purchased a computer. Let's consider I have a computer in front of me, and if this computer is damaged by someone willfully, if someone willfully comes and damages this computer, will that be covered by a cyber insurance policy provider? No, it will not be covered, because like that is a physical damage. Physical damages are not covered by cyber insurance companies. Okay, you may you may have damaged your computer in a fight with your neighbor, or like maybe in your house, like if you have some kind of argument, like if you throw your computer, that will be damaged, and like you can then go to the cyber insurance company that like someone has willfully damaged my computer, so give insurance thing. So that is not covered. Okay, it is not covered under cyber insurance policies for individuals. So if statement 2 is incorrect, we can eliminate some of the options. Which options we can eliminate? We can eliminate option A that has 2 as an statement, so I'm cutting this one. We can eliminate option C that has 2 again. We can eliminate option D that has 2 again. So correct answer is option B. Okay, option B. Let us also read other options also, other statements, but correct answer we have already arrived. Third statement says cost of hiring a specialized consultant to minimize the loss in case of cyber extortion. Okay, cyber extortion means if someone is blackmailing you through some malware or some kind of thing. So in that case, if you want to consult a specialist in this case, so it may be covered, okay, by the cyber insurance company. Then cost of defense in a court of law, if a third party files a suit, okay, means if a third party files a suit, then you can defend yourself as well. So that's why it is also covered. So correct answer for this question is option B. Okay, so these were the 5 questions that we had discussed for the day. Okay, so that's all that we had to discuss for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's session. If you have any queries, if you have any questions, you can reach us on the numbers that are displayed in our YouTube channel. And at the same time, you can visit our website, that is www.lukmanias.com. Thank you so much once again. I hope you have a great day ahead. Bye bye.